This episode of Budget MTG Decks is sponsored by TCG Player, the best place to buy your cards in the US. Welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All the cards you see in our videos are $1 or less, with exception of the Commander cards. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when a new video comes out. Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. I'm David.
And I'm Jasper, and today we're going to be talking about a fun and effective Pauper deck that you can build without breaking the bank. Today we have a slippery Bogle deck for you. Now, Bogles is a deck that's mostly played in Modern. It's probably best known for the World 2013 Finals, where it was played by Reed Duke. And it's a very simple deck. You play a bunch of small Hex Proof Creatures, then you load them up with auras, and then you send them at your opponent's face.
Exactly, and that is also going to be pretty much the strategy that we're going to be enacting. Just put down Hex Proof stuff, enchant it with cool things, smack our opponent before they can react, and since the creature has hexproof, it's immune to targeted removal, and it's very, very hard to get rid of this creature. But it's also pretty affordable, the deck, right? Yeah,
the main deck can be built for $19.85, and then for another $2.55 you have a sideboard, so that makes a total of $22.40 for the entire deck.
Exactly, so let's have a look at the deck list now, grouped by category. The first category are the Hex Proof Creatures. We've got 4 copies of Slippery Bogle, 4 copies of Gladecover Scout, and 4 copies of Ciliana Ledgewalker. Now the first 2 cost a single green, or we're going to play them for a single green. It's going to be a 1/1 with Hexproof, and this is going to be the perfect target for putting all these sweet auras on top of them. Ciliana Ledgewalker also is a 1/1 with Hexproof, but it has the additional benefit, because we pay 1 additional mana for it, to also be unblockable except by creatures with flying, which is nice to have a little evasion on there too.
Yes, next up we have the auras. These are the cards that make our little 1/1s into huge threats. We've got 4 copies of Rancor, we've got 3 copies of Cartouche of Solidarity, then we have 4 copies of Armadillo Cloak, and we've got 3 copies of Helius Pilgrim. The Rancor, of course, +2/+0 and Trample is already a very nice bonus for just a green, and it's almost impossible to get rid of. Then we have Cartouche of Solidarity, which gets +1/+1 in first strike, makes blocking a lot harder for our opponents, and it gives us an extra chump blocker if they try to go around us by going wide. Then we have Armadillo Cloak, it gets +2/+2 and Trample, and whenever enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life, which is of course a huge buff, and since our creatures are going to be swinging in for 5, 6, 7, 1 or 2 attacks with an Armadillo Cloak makes the game pretty much impossible for our opponents to win. And then finally we have Helius Pilgrim. It's a 1/2 creature that says when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an aura card and put it into your hand. Now this gives us some very nice late game flexibility. We can search up something that gives Trample to force through the damage. We can dig up something with first strike if that's necessary, or we can just dig up a very big buffing aura.
Exactly. Then we move on to some cards that have some auras that have synergy with all the enchantments that we're playing. We've got Ethereal Armor and Ancestral Mask. With Ethereal Mana, for just a single mana, it's incredibly cheap. A creature is going to be getting +1/+1 for each enchantment we control, and also having first strike. As we said already, the first strike that helps with making it really annoying for people to block properly. And the Ancestral Mask gives the creature +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield, so not only yours but also your opponent's. So that is going to also be a huge boost, especially with the cards that come after this.
Yes, we're playing 8 mana enchantments. We're playing 4 copies of Abundant Growth and 4 copies of Wild Growth. Now, Abundant Growth is more of a color fixing aura. It says that enchanted land has tap, add 1 mana of any mana to your mana pool. It also has a nice bonus that it draws you a card when it comes to play. And Wild Growth is very straightforward. It enchants a land, and when you tap the enchanted land, you get a green mana on top of whatever other mana it produces.
Yeah. And then we move on to the lands. We have got 4 plains, 12 forests, and only 2 non-basic lands. Those 2 non-basic lands are 2 copies of Blossoming Sands. A little bit of mana fixing in there, not too many, because we really want to make sure we've got our untapped land at the beginning of the game. And it also gains us a life when it comes in, which, could be relevant. It's nice to have. That is it for the deck. Now let's have a look at the sideboard. The first 2 cards in our sideboard are kind of removal oriented. We've got Natural State, 3 copies of that, and we got 4 copies of Oblivion Ring. Natural State, of course, really nice against those people who like to have focus on artifacts and enchantments, and of course people who are playing really fast decks, they're all going to be pretty much converted mana cost 3 or less, so that doesn't really bother us that much. And Oblivion Ring just hits anything you could possibly want, which is incredibly flexible.
Yes, then next up we have 2 copies of Lifelink, 3 copies of Mask of Law and Grace, and 3 copies of Fist of Ironwood. Now these are all to counter specific strategies. Lifelink, of course, can make the burn matchup pretty easy to win, especially since the way Lifelink is worded, it stacks with Armadillo Cloak. So when you swing with a creature of Armadillo Cloak and with Lifelink, you get double the life. Now, Mask of Law and Grace is there mostly to protect us against decks that play either Electricity or Pestilence. So it protects against the damage, makes our creatures even harder to get rid of. And then finally Fist of Ironwood. It only gives trample, which isn't much for an aura in this deck, but it also gives 2 1/1 sapling tokens, and of course that makes our deck very resilient against edict effects, on top of the cartouches we already play in the main board.
Exactly, that is it for the sideboard. Let's have a look at some example starting hands. Here we have 2 examples of starting hands. As you can see, in the first hand we've got a Slippery Bogle, in the second hand we've got a Glade Cover Scout, so we've got a tiny little 1/1 to come in with Hexproof. We've also got a card in both hands which allows us to either mana fix or mana ramp. We've also got a card that synergizes with other auras, and we've also got a card that pumps our creatures power and also gives evasion. And together both these hands essentially, as you can see, pretty much can do exactly the same, even though they have completely different cards in them.
Yes, so this is a very linear strategy. We're always winning by taking 1 or 2 creatures and loading them up, and these are hands that can let us do that very effectively.
Alright, let's have a look at some non-budget upgrades.
Now the main non-budget upgrade that we're looking for in this deck is replacing our copies of Wildgrowth with Utopia Sprawl. Now these are 2 land-based auras that do pretty much the same at first glance, but Utopia Sprawl is much stronger because it replaces itself, and because you can choose a color when it comes in, and then whenever you tap a land for mana, you add 1 mana of the chosen color. Now, of course, this also gives us a lot of flexibility, especially in the sideboard. We can run stuff like Dispel if we are expecting a lot of control matchups. We can run Pyroblast, that sort of thing. Of course, the only downside is that Utopia Sprawl can only enchant a forest. So if you do run Utopia Sprawl, you might want to cut down on the plains a little, add a few forests, maybe cut out the Blossoming Sands. But that's something that you really have to work out for yourself in playtesting.
Yeah, that is it for the non-budget upgrades. Thank you very much for watching. I'm David.
I'm Jasper.
And this was Budget MTG Decks. Find all the cards discussed in this video in the description below. Also, show you're a fan of the channel by rocking this awesome Budget MTG Decks merchandise. This show was made possible by the support of our loyal patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/budgetmtgdecks and donate as little as $1 per month.